Hiya. So I'm making quite a large eclectic style journal. So what do we mean when I say eclectic? What it means is all sorts of stuff's going in it. So it's not got a specific theme. The only theme is vintage, and whatever evolves as I go evolves. I do think that when it comes to embellishments, my focal point will be photographs of people, because I really love the social side of historical photographs and things like that. So I tend to kind of lean towards that, but you could make it nature themed, butterflies, absolutely anything. Now I've already done a tutorial on this folder, and it's using the fabric tape. Okay, let me just quickly show you how it comes if you've not seen. So it comes like this, and you can use it to bind your journal covers. It's much easier than wrapping it with cardstock or anything else. You just literally tape it together, and it's super strong. I've done 5 binding holes here with the elastic. Now I might do something that covers these up on the spine. We'll see how we go. And the beauty of the fabric tape binding is that your journal will lay, the covers will lay flat. There's no stiffness like that. It will lay flat. It's nice and flexible. The elasticated binding is perfect if you're new to journaling. The benefit of them is, it's quick and easy to do. Okay, if you've got problems manually with your fingers, sewing signatures in can be tricky. This is a good alternative. I do them really loose and it looks really bulky and messy, but once I've got my signatures in, I adjust these and then they get knotted and trimmed down, so it's a lot tidier. Then the other benefit is you can slide your signatures in and out. Now this signature happens to have been sewn as well, rather than loose pages. But some of the other ones, the other 4, are going to be loose pages. So all you do is get your signature, you find the middle. If you've seen it before, you've seen it before. I always do my videos as if it's the first time anybody's ever seen anything. And they just slip in like so. And the benefit of these is that if you're decorating and you change your mind on the order of the pages, or you need to take something out to sew, you can do that. You've got that flexibility. Also, whoever ends up the end user of the journal, whether I keep it, whether I sell it, whether I gift it, I'm not sure yet, can add things. So you can add your own sheets, or if there's something that don't work for you, you can take it out. So that's the benefit of it. Okay, so I'm going to be doing quite a few videos on the process of this, with quite a few ideas, different kinds of videos. This one I'm going to show you putting my signatures together. I'll probably speed it up and do a talk over. Then I've got an idea for some kind of funky kind of pages that will be like storage. And then I've got all my bits and bobs out on my desk to make my own embellishments. So, there's going to be a couple of videos on this. So I'm going to go through the process now of how I sort my signatures out, how many I use, what I use, and how I prep my pages. Okay, so signatures. So a signature is a collection of pages. That's all it is. And you can collect whatever you like to go in your signatures. So I tend to use some digitals. Okay, I always put a paper bag in. This is coffee dyed and scrunched baking paper. Used different kinds, different textures, because it adds interest. Okay, also different sizes. They don't all have to be the same size. Decide what your maximum size is. Okay, which is I make mine just a little bit smaller than my cover so that they're not showing. You can ink them, you can sew on them, and get all of your base pages together, and then you can decide on if you're going to decorate them, whether you're going to add flips, etc. So how many pages? You can have as many or as little pages as you want. Okay, now what I would say is, if you don't want a journal where the covers end up like that, where the covers end up wider than the spine when you've got all your pages in. Some people like their journals like that. I try not to do mine like that. So I will keep my signatures fairly small. I like to put lots of embellishments in. Okay, I like to do lots of flips. So they might start quite slim, but by the time you've decorated them, they're going to grow. So this one here has about 15 pages in. Okay, these aren't finished yet. I think I've got digital paper bag. I've got this baking paper. I've got a digital invoice. Then I've got some, and on the back I've put lined. I've got a journaling page, plain there, plain coffee dyed paper, and then another journaling, another digital. So I'll use digitals, but I'll use them sparingly in and amongst as pages, and then I will also use digitals to help create my embellishments and my tags and things like that. For the actual pages, I like to try and have a look around my craft room and see what different kinds of paper I've got. Even pages ripped out of notebooks, lined notebooks, give you an interesting edge, an interesting ripped edge. If I just grab a notebook and show you what I mean. So here's my little golden notebook. So if I just normal lined paper, if I just rip that out, I've automatically got an interesting edge. Fold it in half. Okay, I've got a spot for writing, and this is adding texture and interest. You might, some people either get it or you don't. You can ink them, you can coffee dye them. So have a look when you're in your, your pound shops or your Dollar Tree or the range for cheap notebooks, spiral bound, that are going to give you an interesting edge. Okay, book pages. You've heard me say all of this before. Okay, and then we'll obviously, some pages will get extended with flips, etc. So I'm going to go about prepping some of these pages, and I'll fast forward it and explain what I'm doing. So I've got some pages here. It's just a quick example of the process that I go through. I will fold them, and then I will distress the edges with the edge of my scissors. You can get a specific tool to do this, but they're really not a necessary purchase. You just use your scissors. This just makes it so the edges are so uniform and defined. Also helps it absorb if you're going to ink. Now, the most popular colours for journaling, for inking, is vintage photo and tea dye. If you use tea dye, use it sparingly, because it can look quite orange, and those are well worth the purchase and adding to your collection, because you will use them time and time again. They will go with anything. Okay, inking it can be a lengthy process, but it's something you can sit and do in a batch until it's all done, and it just adds interest and makes your pages look more vintage. It's worth it. Okay, so these pages here, for example, I've sewn. Sewing around the edges adds interest. You've got your tails hanging off, but also it's going to strengthen the edges of the pages as well, if you're going to add any weight to them and things like that. If you want to put flips on the side, etc., it's just going to help strengthen it. But the main reason is it's just adding interest. So for example, I've got 4 patterned digitals here, and all of the digitals that I use I'll link below if anybody wants to get them. This was a £1 special, this one. And then I've got 4 plain ones. When I print on the other side with a different pattern. Okay, so digitals aren't only just artsy pages like this. Some of them are, this is newsprint, and then I've got dots on a tea stained background. So there's loads of different things you can do. So then I'm going to get 1 digital and 1 plain, and I've got 4 signatures that I need to make, because the signature in the middle's done. So this one here I haven't sewn. I don't sew everything. Of course it takes ages, and I'm a little bit lazy. Right, so you've seen how I've distressed. I don't have the pages all the same size. That's the full A4 with the white border cut off. My printer won't do borderless, so I have to cut them off. And then this one I've trimmed down even just a little bit shorter, so that you can see the other page behind. Okay, so these 2 pages, let's just put them in this first signature. So I'm just having a look where I've got maybe a bit of a gap with lots of plain pages. And so I think I'm going to put it in here. So them 2 pages can go in there. Okay, and I'll just repeat that process until I've got, about what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got 12 pages. So I might just slip in some old book page, some things that are not too bulky. So that I've got about 15 or 16 pages in these. Now when I'm doing them, when I'm sewing them in, I'll probably do no more than about 15, because the thicker your signature is, the harder it is to keep them lined up when you sew them in. But because I'm doing the elastics, I can have a few extras. That's the fun of it. Okay, I do never ever trim them all the same size. Okay, first of all, the reason I don't do it is because it's interesting having all different ones. Okay, second of all, once you've got a signature together like that, if you then start cutting them, if you don't get them straight, you know, it goes wonky or they slip, you've ruined a whole set of pages. You end up cutting them smaller and smaller to get them right. Why put yourself through that stress? Just leave them as they are. Look how interesting they look. Some are wrinkled, some are plain, some are distressed, some are sewn, some are texture. So you've got all different. So then I'll just go to the next signature and I'll do more or less the same. So I'll just look for where I've got a bit of a plain spot, where I've got quite a few plain pages together, which is there. I will grab 2 pages. So I've got a plain and a patterned. Stick them in. Okay. And that's the process. I may as well do the others while I'm here. And then once I've got my base pages, that's when I go away and then I create all of my elements that I'm going to use for embellishments, or if I want to create any what I call funky pages. And I do have one in mind, and I will be doing a tutorial. So make sure you subscribe, you've hit the notification bell, etc., so that you don't miss what I'm doing, because YouTube won't recommend me unless you ask it to. And then you'll forget all about me, and I'll be on my own sat here crafting, talking to myself in my craft room for nothing. Right, so those are more or less my signatures, more or less done. I'll probably slip in a couple of extra pages. So then all I need to do is slip them into my elastics, and then the elastics will get adjusted. Okay, so I'm just going to very quickly, if you stay to the end, talk about getting ready to make my embellishments and what kind of things you can use. Okay, so let's just quickly look how quick that is. All I've got to do is slide them in. Hey presto, boom, we're good to go. Okay, now you know that these elastics are too tight if it's pulling on there. It's pulling on that top page, so that will just get untied and it will get slackened off slightly. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's easy to, and I will do that right at the end, because you know, once I've filled things, added things, I might need to just, you know, readjust. So for now it stays in a messy bow and it's loose, so that I can get my little fingers in and get it undone. Okay, so immediately we've already got what looks like the beginnings of a fantastic journal. Look at all those interesting pages. Okay, and when we've got it like that, we're nearly at capacity already without even doing any extra. In fact, you could just leave it like that as a writing journal. Okay, and look how fabulous that looks. It lays flat like so, so that when you're writing on a flat surface. And we've got all that interest already before we've even done any decorating. Haven't done my cover because I've not decided what I'm doing yet. So as you can see, my cover is, you know, this room. It's not like that, okay, because I've overfilled it. It's like that, and there's room now for that to grow with my embellishments. I don't want my journal to be a gator mouth. Nothing wrong with them, it's just not for me. Because I think I want it to slip nicely in a bookshelf and not be cumbersome and a problem. I want it to be user-friendly. Right, so let's quickly talk about making the embellishments. So in this journal, I'm going to make a lot of what I call tatty cluster type embellishments. Not just your small ones that go on pockets, but larger ones that I can put on flips and tags and whatever. So let me just tell you quickly what I've got pulled to one side. So I've got some, these are quite delicate book pages. So at the front of your old books, when you've got your lovely aged papers with no writing on, and I've added some embossing. So I've got the, you know, the little tiny embossing folders that nobody thinks to use because they're a little bit like, what am I going to do with that? They're perfect for this. Look at that one. Perfect. Lovely tatty edge, and I can use that and layer up. I've got some offcuts of the crinkly paper. I've got some book pages that I've added modelling paste to, but you can paint on them, you can draw on them, stamp on them, whatever you like. I've got some cards, leftover cardstock, and I have, this one's been inked with tea stain. These are just left plain white, so I've just run them through my embossing folder, and when you rip them you get this lovely fibrous tatty edge. That'll look gorgeous as a pocket or on a journaling card, layered up. Okay, maybe layered up with these. And then I've got vintage wallpapers. These are a freebie over in my Facebook group. So you might layer up, you know, you might, and you just start and you layer. Okay, I might have that there. I might have some of this embossing there. Okay, and then obviously you've got your obligatory vintage, if you're doing vintage, numbers and labels. Always, these are I've just stamped them. These aren't digitals. I use my scraps of white cardstock from when I make folios, and I will stamp heaps of these in different colours, reds, greys, browns, blacks. Ink them with tea stain to take the whiteness off. Okay, or vintage photo. Okay, so that's those. As I say, I've got my vintage wallpapers that I've just ripped up. I've got some coffee dyed patterned papers that I've ripped up. I've got some ledger paper. This is not printable. This is old ledger paper, just ripped up, so I can, you know, start and make layered kind of clusters. And then you just need like a focal, let me just find a little image. Then you just need a little focal point. Let's use this one as an example. So then I might add my photo there. And then here I might add my embossed strip like so. And then somewhere, here we go, I've got these. So these are stamped onto cotton fabric. This is the lining of an old curtain. Perfect. Stamp on it, cut it out, fray the edges. You can stamp all sorts of things, see what you've got in your collection. Okay, so then I could maybe add that on there as well. And then there I've started and I've got myself a lovely cluster. I might back it on something larger. I might use some of this vellum, whatever, you get the idea. And then I will be adding these to, you know, whatever. But I'll make a heap of these. Not necessarily little tiny clusters, but larger clusters of just interesting things that go together nicely. Even if you don't want to glue them down, put them together in a pile, paper clip them. Okay, all right, I don't have a paper clip to hand, so I'm using one of these. Paper clip them, bob them to one side until you decide if you like it. And then if you do, you don't want to add anything else, you can start and glue them or sew them with your sewing machine. So that's the process of what I'm going to be on with next. So in the next video, I'll be showing you what to do with these and which one, and you know, and what I've come up with to give you some visual kind of ideas. Another idea is fabric samples. Yep, just cut up tiny little pieces, scraps of lace, etc. You know by now, if you're into journaling, the 1,000,001 different things that you can use. So I hope you'll join me next time, and we will do some work on this. The video for the cover, there is a tutorial on it, okay, and I will link that in the either in the description box below, or I'll add it as the recommended next video for you to watch. Okay, so let's get cracking and we'll make ourselves a big fat eclectic journal. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.